Well, hello everyone. Welcome to a way too late episode of the Missing Wolves post-game live stream podcast thing. I'm your host, Andrew Dukowitz, beat reporter for Zone Coverage covering the Wolves. And today we got Wilder Adams on. How's it going, man?
Man, I think we're pushing the limits tonight, man, with how much energy we can exude on this show. But thankfully, we had maybe the best game of the season. So I think that's going to be able to push us a lot of hours through and make this a fun, exciting, energetic episode, regardless of what time it is.
I'm gonna be honest. For everyone in the chat filing in, for people listening to this tomorrow or today, I guess it would be today. For people listening to this in 6 hours when it goes up on Spotify, I'm tired and I may not have the best energy because 8:30 p.m. start time games are just ludicrous. But that's just me. Wilder is going to be full of energy, and that's great because pulling back the curtain, I told Wilder I'd love to have you on the pod, man. Let's get this worked out. Like 3 months ago, and I did not expect a lot of people to want to be on this pod. So it was like, yeah, Wilder, please come on. But also, there's like a 2.5 month waiting list. So thank you so much for being patient, first off.
Man, things happen the way they're meant to happen. I mean, after a game like that, I took an Alani at like 4 p.m. today, and I didn't know why that felt important in the moment, but like fate aligned, man. Like, I'm just glad to be on the show today, and we're just pushing forward, man. I'm ready.
Yeah, and iceberg beats. Yeah, let's go. It was, you had alluded to it a little bit, Wilder. Probably the best win of the season for the Wolves. Probably the most complete game of the season for the Wolves. I think there are some caveats that we can add as we sprinkle through. But first, I mean Anthony Edwards. We probably have to start with him. And anyone joining in the chat, this is a fan-led show, so by all means, ask questions, post comments. But Anthony Edwards played probably his best game of the season. I mean, made every right read, made it every right decision. Double came, got off of it. Defense was great. I mean, he pulled down 12 rebounds, which I think everyone's seen the Ants defensive boxing out videos from this season. Plays 41 minutes coming back off of a foot injury, and then hits a dagger three, gets a ridiculous block. Next defensive possession, pick Shea for the win. I mean, what can you say about Ant on a night like tonight?
These are moments that look like a true superstar to the highest extent. It's not always going to be the prettiest. It's not always going to be 42 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Moments like these aren't supposed to be easy. When you're playing a team like Oklahoma City, it's not going to be easy. Ant already sees a lot of doubles. He saw even more tonight. The coverages he was watching were insane. He's coming in, not perfect circumstance, like you're saying, a foot injury. It's a late game, facing a lot of pressure. It's just not an easy environment. And then the game, they don't start out that well. And he's not starting out great. I think he started the game. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I think he was 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 at one point to start the game. But you know what? As the game got tougher, he also aligned with it. He uppered his play to the moment, truly. And just the tough shot making, but also you mentioned it, the rebounding. I thought the effort, the leadership, the energy, Chris Finch getting ejected, just managing the waves, managing the storms as we get through what's never a clean game when you're playing Oklahoma City. That's just what a superstar does. It isn't always about the numbers. It isn't always about the 40 points. Sometimes it's just being a leader, being there in the moment. And Anthony Edwards, whenever there was a moment, he showed that he is in that Shea Gilgeous-Alexander weight class. These are just growing signs that Anthony Edwards is not just only a great basketball player, but he's somebody who's upping his maturity to be up there with some of the best in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm gonna not be my normal self and poke holes in Anthony Edwards because he was phenomenal tonight. I mean, zero plus minus when he is playing 41 minutes against a team that's only lost 2 games. That's impressive. His shot making ability tonight was awesome. Only took 6 threes, was trying to get to the rim a ton, and they kind of enforced their their will on Oklahoma City, which let's talk about the Finch side of it, because we saw Finch go after Zach Zarber at the end of the Memphis game. There was some choice F-bombs dropped that were caught on a hot mic, and he just lost it like right off the top tonight. Julius, I haven't looked at all the replays yet. The in arena replays are never the most neutral. So it looked like Julius got fouled. Then it looks like Ant gets fouled, and Finch just goes off the rails, which I really think the team needed that tonight. I think, even though he wasn't with them in spirit, and after Finch got tossed, they actually went on a pretty poor run of basketball for the next 5 minutes. But I do think Finch getting tossed helps lead to Minnesota shooting a absolutely insane 47 free throws tonight. And like, sure, you can sit there and say, like, yeah, how much does Finch actually have a say in it? But when Finch loses his mind after a couple no calls, I think that does matter. And I think the Wolves benefited from that a little bit. Again, 47 free throws for the Wolves tonight. That's kind of insane. But what's your thought on it?
Yeah, 47 free throws. And it's so funny because my first thought when watching that is like 3 years of resentment and tension toward Thunder related game officials just all in one moment. That wasn't just one bad call. That is 3 years of sample there. And Chris Finch, I mean, so funny because as much as I think he lost control, there's a part of me that's always wondering, did Chris Finch also have some of an intuition that the team might have needed something like that? Because we know it with this team in the past. It's a very, this is not in the bad way, but it can be an emotional team in some ways. It kind of needs a spark sometimes to wake up against bad teams, to wake up against sometimes really bad officials. So when you have a moment like that where your coach completely justifies it and it's like, this guy got ejected for us, now we have to wake up and go show our end of the bargain. I do believe the officials after, it didn't feel like a bad officiated game. Sometimes you're just like, okay, why'd you not call that? And then you called that. Maybe picking the moment wasn't perfect, but obviously Minnesota, the physicality OKC usually shows finally came into fruition in the fouling. But it definitely, on top of that, more importantly, just the focus of the team, the effort, the motivation, the energy was good in the beginning, but it became fantastic after the Chris Finch ejection. So I definitely believe he brought a psychological boost.
Yeah, and Iceberg mentions in the chat we beat the Flopahoma Thunder. There was some pretty egregious flopping. Chet had one where he looked like he got hit by a car and no one Ant got ball, and I think it was Jaden on the other side, or no, it was Rob that missed him completely. There was some tomfoolery on that side, which was to be expected, but for the most part, like, I'm not gonna say it was like my favorite officiating game, because 54 fouls in 48 minutes that's just a lot,
It's a
right?
lot.
And when you're looking at quick math at 1 a.m, uh 77 free throws, that's just
Yeah.
a lot. But I think it was more related to trying to prevent a fight. I mean, I cover the Lynx, so the contrast to that is the Phoenix Mercury Minnesota Lynx game, where the physicality is completely out of the way, and it ends up in Fee blowing out her knee and Cheryl Reeve trying to fight the officials.
Mhm.
This is like the opposite side of that, is of, I think the officials were so worried that this was going to get out of hand that they maybe blew the whistle a little bit too much. But like, I do tend to agree that it wasn't the most egregious officiated game. I mean, I thought for the most part things were called pretty down the middle. Like, again, you look at the free throw difference, it's jarring, but Oklahoma City only had 6 more fouls than the Wolves. Like, that's kind of negligible in the grand scheme of things. CD mentions in the chat here, mid-range Ant was flawless tonight. Yeah, 2 for 4. I mean, if Ant's going to shoot 20% of his shots from the mid-range and go 50% from that spot on the floor, like, that's great. Godfrey mentions, I'm tired of the Wolves whining and crying about the refs. Towns did it for 9 years, and now it's Ant. Ant has some tough looks with the refs. I think for the most part, I think he has a little bit of a leg to stand on. I don't think he gets a great whistle, but at the same time, like he whines a lot, so I do think that factors in with these officials. Like part of the reason I think Shea gets such a good whistle is he never complains. He just kind of falls over, and if they call it, they call it, and if they don't, he gets back on defense and he's fine. Godfrey, I do want to get your thoughts though, just on you know the Wolves' defense tonight seemed to be excellent from
Yeah.
the second quarter on. I mean, how do you feel like they did locking up Shea and just slowing down a Thunder offense that, like, again, the caveat is the Thunder's offense is not world beaters, but it's still a top 10 offense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we've seen this team where they will lose it on the margins, whether it's, oh my gosh, you can't make a rotation to save your life. Where's the rebounding? 18 turnovers. What's going on? And I just thought the team's overall attention to detail was just outside the fact they couldn't really shoot today. Neither could the Thunder. And a lot of
Yeah.
that is because Minnesota, for the first time, honestly, recently, it felt like they understood the physicality that was going to come with OKC. Like, this isn't new. Oklahoma City, it's in the book. I mean, a big part of why they're doing 47 fouls in a game is because they probably could be called for 100. And Minnesota just said today, I'm going to match his physicality. We are going to try to match your attention to detail, match what you guys are doing with your defensive intensity. And just the intensity was excellent. Like outside of a couple occasions, I thought they did a really good job closing defensive possessions. I thought, they're able to collapse on Shea consistently, not get him too comfortable. For the most part, they're very urgent in recovering after going at Shea. And other than a couple instances where they airball it or the ball somehow gets back to them, I thought the rebounding was good. They out rebounded them. It was just great to see because we've seen in the past this team against OKC, they get their head out of the game because OKC, they're hands, hands, hands. Where's the official? And then they flop on offense, and then they get distracted from the game. And simultaneously, they're not as physical defensively. But today, they just said, you know what? We're just going to match everything you're doing. And it was a big success. That's a really good sign that this team is starting to understand a little better the book of this Thunder team. You just have to match them, hope the calls come, but don't expect it, and just keep playing. And they eventually, after Finch got ejected, they did that.
Yeah, and again, like last year's postseason, 5 game series, I think the Wolves are even pretty honest about the officiating did really mess with them in that
Mm-hmm.
series. I think tonight there were times where again Chet gets kind of a phantom call. There was another like a rip through call by Shea on Jaden that like those things are frustrating. It is an art form to get a rip through. Like I do think that is like an actual skill. However, it's frustrating, especially when you're Jaden and you're playing against Shea for 38 minutes and then you get kind of that foul called. Sucks, right? They didn't lose their composure, which I do think matters in the grand scheme of things. And part of not losing their composure, I thought it was really interesting to see Mike and Nori and the Wolves bench go offense defense with Rudy and Julius like at the 3 minute mark, which I think that does help with the composure when you are having a lot of stoppages and able to talk it out and kind of do that. Godfrey mentions, okay, missed a ton of open threes played last night. I will give you that they missed a ton of open threes. I would say they had a scrimmage last night against the Los Angeles Clippers. Only Chet played over 30 minutes, and that was just they only won by 20, but that game was not a super fun one. Wilder, I do want to get your thoughts on this though. Casey mentions over on YouTube, is it time to cut Mike from the rotation and just roll with Robin Bones? What are your thoughts on that? Just having Mike be, he's very Obi-Wan Kenobi looking with his giant hoodie tonight. So maybe that's the solution.
No, that's a really good question. I think the point guard situation is so complicated because we know the relationship that Mike has with the team, the ethos he has with Chris Finch with just his veteranship presence. So the idea of Mike not playing, it's just weird to fully grasp, even if he hasn't played great basketball in 18 plus months at this point in time. But yeah, I would definitely, if it was up to me, if I was the coach, and I'm not the coach, obviously, I would have it be Bones and Rob at this point, because the benefits that Mike Conley brings at this point, they just don't outweigh the negatives at this point, because he's not providing really anything as a creator anymore. He can't get to the rim. He doesn't have that floater threat. He's a smart defender, but he's a limited defender. Really, the biggest value he brings is he's a really good situational playmaker. But if he's not going to be dynamic outside a spot of threes, then there's not really a ton of value to what Mike brings. He's shooting 36% from the field this year, shot 38% last year. And when you just look at the team at this point, I just think Bones is a better basketball player. I think he's a better shot maker. I think the playmaking has been far from a detriment. Rob Dillingham, and then it becomes a dilemma, right? Where Rob is struggling in certain ways. He's not shooting well, even though I would say he's definitely showing signs as a playmaker and even defender in some ways. But it becomes the opportunity cost. What's worth it? Hoping Mike Conley gets back to form or hoping Rob Dillingham develops? I would say a better calculated decision would be to develop Rob Dillingham in that circumstance. So, look, Mike Conley's 37, I believe. He's on the final year of his deal, and he played point guard for the last year and a half, and the point guard position has still been a problem. So, I would definitely, at this point in time, continue as long when Mike Conley comes back. I'll continue to play this out unless we just get new data that says, no, don't play Rob, don't play Bones. But I don't expect that. So I would bench Mike personally.
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant on it. I mean, I'll be honest, like Rob's game tonight, I mean, personally, I think Rob played his best game of the season tonight. And I still don't think it was necessarily like a great game. Like defensively, he was very handsy. He was kind of a game wrecker, at least getting in passing lanes. Offense, he took the shots that, like, he looked confident. He took the shots that he should be taking. He didn't hesitate. Chunked the layup, missed a mid-range, bricked the three, and still, you know, made good reads, I think, on offense. I think he finished with 4 assists. Double checking that quick. Finished with 3 assists, did get 6 rebounds, he was legitimately active. I just don't know how sustainable it is because he is such a young player still. And this is coming from a guy that I mean, I genuinely like Rob. I get to talk to him pretty frequently. He's really nice young guy. I think he does have a path to make it in the NBA, but I think he's still really struggling with how to be an NBA point guard versus being a college kind of microwave off the bench guy. And Bones, I do think Bones is going to be a rotation guy for the rest of the season. Like I would not hesitate to have Bones playing 15 to 20 minutes. I think he's earned that so far. I mean, the interesting thing about Bones is everyone I kind of talk to in the media world is just kind of saying, wait until you get the bad version of Bones. And unfortunately, he, his rookie season, really good with Denver. Second season, he kind of forces his way out with a trade, and it wasn't a good second season in Denver. Goes to LA. It's really good first season. He plays pretty well in the playoffs. Then they sign James Harden, and he has the worst year of his career until he eventually gets cut and joins the Wolves. So I do think there is some concern there. The pushback I have with Mike is I think Mike has been playing over his expectation. Like I think Mike at this point in his career is the 9th guy on the bench. He gets 8 to 10 minutes, and he is used as kind of a calming presence. When another team's on a run, you throw Mike out there, he settles the offense down, he settles the defense down. He's really the only guy on this team that seems to recognize when the ball's starting to get sticky, and you'll see Mike kind of call for the ball and then run like a two action play that gets some ball movement. And on defense, like he's been fine. I don't think he's been worse than Bones. He's been fine. So in my ideal world, it follows a similar path to how it has been when Bones is probably the first guy off the bench with Nas Reed. And then you play TJ, Rob, and Mike 5 minutes each. And the two guys that have it going that night probably finish with 12. And the guy that has 5 is probably staying at 5. And then Jalen gets 5 or 10 as well. And you just try and figure out what you have in time for playoffs. But Mike, it's tough because there is up and down this roster such a love of playing with him, and they all acknowledge how much more comfortable they are playing on the court with Mike. But again, he's a 37-year-old guy that openly is talking about, his body feels good playing 10 minutes. You can't play him 20 if his body can only handle 10. So it's going to be a talking point for the rest of the season, though, because I do think this team is pretty okay with their rotation right now. But let's just talk about the point guard thing. Like, what do you think about their kind of rotation if they keep it the same way it is now?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I do. It's obviously the point guard situation is so uncertain right now. Anthony Edwards is the point guard, if we're entirely honest, and you're starting two shooting
I,
guards in
I
your
would
starting lineup. I
push
mean,
back a little bit. And I
okay.
know Finch said Ant is the point guard, so I know you'd have like legs to stand on.
There's no real
I
point
really
guard on
think
the team,
Julius is
but
probably the point guard at this point, like in terms of like the offense running through him. But your point still stands. It is either Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle as the point guard of a professional basketball team.
yeah, I would probably categorize like Julius Randle as like a playmaking hub rather than the
Mhm,
point guard, and Ant's kind of like the way better version of Jamal Murray type of point guard right now with the way this
mhm,
roster looks. So there's not a clear point guard on this team. It's not the answer, and we can have a debate how important that is in the modern NBA anymore. The more important thing is that they're efficient with the ball as a team. So whatever honestly maximizes that and also maximizes the development of your young players, that's how they should do it. And I agree with you. I just don't see a world where as long as the team stays this way, that Finch would ever fully bench Mike at this point, especially with his relationship, like you said, Mike's calming presence, it being near the end of Mike's career, all of those things together. I don't see a scenario where he gets fully benched. But I do think that in games like this, I mean, Minnesota had what 13 turnovers, which against OKC is not that bad. So in a
mhm.
game like this, what value would Mike Conley bring when you have a swarm of the Keeson Wallaces and the Alex Caruso's throwing at you? And we saw how that affected him in the conference finals last year. So I'm not as confident that the theoretical right game management aspect of his game is a huge one. And that's no disrespect to Mike, as he's done incredible things for the franchise. I get that he's obviously the highest IQ playmaker on the team, but I'm still there's no good options, honestly, if you want a true point guard on the team. But yeah, I would definitely say I kind of look at it more in a macro, what's best for development. And I think Bones and Rob, they're theoretically dynamic nature, especially with Rob. You should try to maximize that if you can. And if it doesn't work, I don't know. Mike, let's do it, man.
Yeah, I think with Mike on a game like tonight, he probably plays 5 minutes. Like I think on a game like tonight, when you see a good first shift out of Rob, you just roll with him.
Yeah.
I think the charm of Mike is that you know what you're gonna get out of him. So like on those nights where Rob is struggling, or there will be nights where Bones is struggling. We've seen Mike close games instead of Dante this year. I mean, there are going to be games where, you just know what you're going to get. 40% 3-point shooter. He can break press fine on defense. I think he'll have his nights where he's impactful, but I do agree with you. Like tonight, the ball handling wasn't a problem. It never really looked like these guys were all out of sorts. Bones gave you enough juice. I think Rob gave you enough juice. And then they got to kind of the winning time, and Ant was able to bring the ball up pretty well. So
Mm-hmm.
this is probably a game where, like, if Mike was healthy, he plays that first stint in the first quarter, and then we don't probably see him again, because Mike's also a guy that, like, wants Rob to be good. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
it's really interesting with Mike, because, like, I really think he was hoping someone would take his job this year and he'd be playing 10 to 12 minutes, but it just hasn't happened. Wilder, I'm going to throw us over to a couple ad reads, though. When we come back, I do want to chat a little bit more about Rob, because I think this was his best game of the season. But first, we got to run some ads. Well, hello. Thank you, Livestream Andrew. This is Ad Read Andrew. And today we have Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, the presenting sponsor for the Missing Links podcast. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling strives to inspire people to follow their ideas, working with respect and understanding to create a quality, tailored result. Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, located in Blaine and serving in the North Metro area, is here to help you with your building and remodeling needs. I can say personally, thanks to Firehawk Construction and Remodeling, I have a beautiful deck in my backyard, and countless projects that I started, they finished. Get started on your new deck or remodel today by calling Isaac at 763-710-5686. And we're back with another ad read. This time for Pence Homes, the presenting sponsor of Hitting the Hardwood Network. From the best tools and technology to transparency throughout the entire process, Nate Pence and the Pence Homes team is the top choice for buyers, sellers, and is proud to support you and your home ownership goals. Get started today by calling 612-308-1122 or by emailing info@pencehomes.com. So Rob, I say it's his best game of the year. I think if you're just looking at a box score, it doesn't seem that way. 0 for 4, no points. He did have the 3 assists, had the 6 rebounds, did have a turnover, and then also 4 fouls in the 13 minutes or so that or 15 minutes or so that he played. I have a different page up now on my little analytics thing, but the reason I think he was so good, 3 assists, went for 7 points. 0 bad passes according to Spot Track. I mean, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Even his missed shots, it was get by your defender, get to the mid-range miss, get it on a kick out on the corner, get to the rim. Again, unfortunately missed. I don't know. I mean, you were at the game with me. What did you feel kind of watching Rob tonight?
Yeah, it's so funny just evaluating his point in development because of course with when a young player struggles, you struggle. How do you evaluate a young player, right? Is it by how much shots they're making? Is it the process? And I think any coach would tell you it's the process. And I think Rob, his processing, it was his best game of the year in that way. I thought early in the year, you see the rush as a playmaker, kind of the one dimension thinking, rushing a pass, showing doubt, missing rotation defensively. I think as a pure team point guard, the stuff that Finch and the staff has been trying to emphasize with them, thought he was doing it. I thought his playmaking was good. He was pushing the pace, wasn't making a lot of mistakes. And at this point, we're taking a Rob Dillingham not making a lot of mistakes. And we talk about the 6 rebounds, and I thought they were just not only 6 rebounds, important rebounds, because it felt like first half, even a lot in the second half, especially, it was him saving a ball that's about to go out of bounds and just starting a new possession. I thought he saved a lot of possessions. He had a great offensive rebound for Ant. He saved a drive that went to the free throw line. Defensively, there are multiple occasions where the ball is about to go out of bounds. He catches it and just, chucks it right to a teammate, and the ball is in Minnesota's hands. And I thought those little things, that's what you want from Rob Dillingham, because in the draft, that's a big question. Now, the next step for if things started getting positive, I thought it's been really bad with Rob in a lot of ways this year, but today felt like a neutral to a slight positive in those ways. He was a plus 10. But also, if you can add this version of Rob Dillingham where he's decisive, he's getting in there, he's playmaking, but then he starts making these shots that, like you said, are good shots. Then you're starting to see really good progress from Rob Dillingham. But we're going to take steps at a time with Rob with how it started. So I'm happy with what we saw from the processing.
Yeah, 3 rebounds for Rob in the 4th quarter alone, also had a block, played 6 minutes. What I felt watching it, and I wanna get your opinion on it, is just I brought up the stats here. Rob and Ant played 11 minutes together. They were plus 10 in those 11 minutes.
Mm.
I think Rob being able to just catch and drive and do more secondary stuff and maybe not being relied upon as like, hey, bring the ball up, run a pick and roll with Rudy. Like, I just wonder if like Ant's gravity and pairing Rob with Ant is the better play than just trusting Rob with an entire offense. What's kind of your thoughts on that?
That's a great take. I mean, we saw his rookie year how good Rob was next to Anthony Edwards. We saw the best version of Rob during his rookie year with Anthony Edwards. And I think Rob at this point, like you're mentioning, just, when the game is simplified and he can just make simple decisions in the flow of the offense, he's clearly really comfortable with that compared to, okay, let's make these three-dimension reads as a true point guard with the pick and roll with Rudy, not force a turnover, not force a pass. Anthony Edwards simplifies everything for everybody. And I think Rob, a young player who you want to build his confidence on, I think it's really good in that regard. So I totally agree.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It simplifies it, right? Like Ant brings a pick and roll up, draws the double off of the pick and roll, slings it to Rudy. Rudy kicks it to Rob. Rob can drive. Same scenario. Ant kicks it to Jaden or Dante. Dante swings it to Rob. He can just blow by a help defender. Like he's so quick in that realm. It's just he did it a couple times today, and it's just like that's probably more of the vision for him. And I wonder if it's just now that Ant is back and now that they're kind of forced to play him with Ant, if we're gonna see better games just because he's doing stuff that doesn't require then this isn't I'm gonna phrase it a little differently. Like I don't think Rob is like a not smart basketball player. Like I don't think it's like an IQ issue. I don't think it's a vision issue. I think it's this guy is a pure hooper and has been allowed to hoop for his entire career. And now he's in the NBA as an undersized point guard, and you can't just hoop. Like Jamal Crawford could hoop because he's 6'6". Rob can't just hoop. Like you need to learn how to do certain things. And I think when you're playing off ball with a guy as dynamic as Ant, you're allowed to just catch the ball and hoop because there's so much space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, he just looked comfortable. Again, it's weird saying that for a guy that missed every shot he took, but even in the 4th quarter, +6, his offensive rating was 120 with Ant on the floor. Like 67 defensive rating. Like they obviously work well together, which I'm hoping we see more of that. That's kind of my take is I really want to see Rob comfortable more.
And shout out to you for the stats, man, at 1:30 in the morning. I don't think I could look at a stat sheet right now and stay
Shout out
awake.
to Pivot Fade, one of the best analytic apps out there. Not a sponsor, but I really enjoy the product.
Oh, that's great, man. No, shout out to you on that. That's really great. So, no, I'm with you. And I think sometimes when people associate bad decision making or is the game too complicated, they associate it with smart and dumb, and it's not right. He's a young point guard, and the
Yeah.
NBA is really hard. And the gaps that you grow up with are just much smaller. And almost every young guard ever has an adaptation phase. And Rob, even though we'll talk about the shot another time, that part he feels really on track for. And I just thought, yeah, like you mentioned, I think when you play with a guy like Anthony Edwards, who is literally in the top 1% in gravity creation in the NBA, it just makes decisions easy for Rob. It, in those scenarios, builds confidence. And with a young player, someone you spend an eighth overall pick on, two first round picks on, really, you just want to build this dude's confidence. And hopefully, playing next to Anthony Edwards can build that confidence where the shot can come back and everything kind of compounds its growth. I think if you want to make the Rob thing work, I think that's definitely the next step, making him in positions with Anthony Edwards to be comfortable that way.
And truthfully, Bones helps with that because I think Bones is a lot more adept right now of being able to run the offense, of being able to make those decisions off of like pick and rolls or secondary actions. And, Rob has that first step and that quickness that is just elite. Like if he's going to make it, that will be a big reason why. I don't know. It was just a really encouraging game. I left tonight being like, "Oh, look at Rob! Like, good for Rob." Ant shouted him out. Mike and Nori shouted him out. Everybody's happy with Rob, and I was kind of like walking back to the media room, just like, look at this guy, just putting together a good game, just solid.
And shout out to the team for just helping build a player like that. When you have moments like that, just being there for him, helping him build up in those situations, man. It's just we all want Rob to be good. We all want
Yeah.
Rob to be good.
I mean, I've said it probably a dozen times that if Rob is just good, it solves every problem this team has. And he doesn't need to be great. He doesn't need to be Trey Young. He doesn't need to be Allen Iverson. If Rob can just catch the ball off a catch or, drive the ball off the catch, make those simple secondary action reads, get some chemistry with Rudy, that solves so many problems for this team. Because I mean, I do think if this comes to a playoff series where it's Minnesota and Oklahoma City again, they're going to need those wrinkles that they can go to. And last thing I want to get your thoughts on is just TJ because we're almost at 2 a.m. 5 minutes tonight for TJ. I thought it was again a a game in which it's very apparent TJ is on scouting reports now. Every time he got the ball and was driving, they force him right. Every
Mm-hmm.
time he's on defense, they're running stuff at his guy so that TJ maybe falls off a little bit. I mean, what have you kind of thought about the TJ Shannon experience this year?
I think it's obviously not more positive than negative, but I've also been willing to be patient with it. Obviously, last year he surprised everybody against OKC, against LA, against Utah. Holy crap, this guy's fast, this guy's strong. He has great coordination. He can really start he has really good feel as a passer when he's comfortable, all those things. And they're still true, I think. I think a part of this year, I do think some of the injuries probably have had an effect on his finishing
Mm-hmm.
and his burst. And I think with a player like that who is somewhat one dimensional that way, that's going to kind of have a domino effect on his overall impact. But also, like you're saying, people watch what he did against OKC last year, against the Lakers, against Utah, and he has real limitations, and those are standing out more too. So obviously, Terrence Shannon, he needs to be in positions where he can get in transition, build that confidence again, hit spot up shots. He's got to simplify it, but you can't be one dimensional in the NBA to really maximize a real role. So he's got to add a right hand. He's got to not play one speed. It can't be no or go. It's got to be a little bit of decisiveness of when to attack closeouts, when to slow down, when to move the ball, which he's good at. But yeah, work in progress. Bones is younger than him somehow, so that's an interesting wrinkle in this. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is with a lot of these guys, Jalen, TJ, Rob. It's just a we'll see type of thing. But Wilder, I appreciate you coming on. I do want to give you space. Anything you want to shout out? Anything you want to promote? I hear you have a very fun and popular podcast that you are doing. The floor is yours, sir.
Dude, you're the best. First of all, I'm so proud of you for everything you're doing with zone coverage, the growth as a podcaster, all the different ventures you're pursuing right now, man. You're killing it. But yeah, so I have a podcast. It's called Wilder Wolves Podcast. It's definitely a mix of journalism and fan bias. We embrace both sides of it. So definitely check it out. And yeah, we're going to continue creating consistent content. Andrew Dukowitz right here is a saint because we're about to get right into that too and see if we need another Alani before we start. We'll see. But no, man, you're the best. I'm proud of you. And yeah, definitely check out Wilder Wolves because we're all over the place on all the medias, all the podcasts, listening platforms, YouTube, all of it. Check it out for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I will vouch. It is a fun podcast to listen to, fun to be a part of when I join you. And Oh gosh, we're gonna be back again on Sunday. I think they have an earlier game on Sunday, so I won't be quite as grouchy and curmudgeony, but until Sunday, I guess we'll say go Wolves. I mean, they beat Oklahoma City. Can't go wrong with that.
No, man, I think we'll be sleeping well tonight.